I want to today to think about the COVID pandemic and the COVID experience that we all went through, but all went through it and had a unique experience, sort of thing. So I just want to have a think about and reflect on mine, if that's okay.
That sounds really good actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, I want to start off by saying actually, I found it quite good. one aspect of it, because obviously the issues that I have around being social and interacting with people and stuff like that, the actual some of the restrictions during the lockdown actually helped me keep that distance that I've always maintained, but without having the worry of offending people or being seen as rude or ignorant or antisocial and those kind of things.
So those are the things you were told growing up.
Yeah, because I did find it awkward being around people and mixing with people and things like that. So the pandemic didn't give me an excuse, because I just behaved the same, but I didn't have that criticism from those around me, and I didn't have that voice in my head repeating what I'd been told since I was a child. Well, you're rude, you're ignorant, you're not nice, and those kind of things. Having that distance from people without that criticism and or perceived criticism that I thought I was going to expect was really helpful.
Can you see how, as well, on the kind of staying on the same train with that, is that when you were young, you were told you were rude because you wanted to be insular and you didn't want to be around people. And can you see that you were insular and you didn't want to be around people because you were ill? Yeah. And so you wanted to feel safe and feel insular and do your thing. And yet many people felt a benefit, in terms of similar experiences to you, in the fact of being insular. And then now it's been normalised to be insular, to not go out. If you notice that children don't play out really much anymore, they play inside and be insular. So we're kind of, well, as I've said all along, we've lost our humanness. And so then illness has become the norm. So we've gone so far away from ourselves that we feel more comfortable to be even more in a prison box within ourselves and in our realm. Yeah. So for you found that your prison getting tinier and tinier is safer and safer.
And it did highlight to me how small my world was and how limited my world is, because when those restrictions came in, particularly about distancing yourself, socializing and family, it made no change whatsoever to my life. And at points I tried to make a joke of it, because I'm a technique I use is minimizing my experiences, and it were like, oh, people are getting upset because they're not seeing this, or they can't do this, or I haven't made any change to me. And and so I did try and minimize it, but looking back, it did show how restrictive my life has been, or how restrictive the life I lead is, due to my anxieties about being around people, being seen. It did really highlight to me that my world is only a really small and limited one.
I guess as well, realising the world that we live in is where we are limited and we are made small anyway. In terms of, everybody's made equal, and yet that right gets taken away from all of us. That people that are equal govern us. People that are equal tell us what to do. People that are equal threaten us if we don't do as we're told, such as in COVID. People that are equal manipulate us. So there's all those things going on, that are done to us. People, we've gone in terms of, you know, like wellness. If you're thinking about, if you think about it in the other term of wellness, we've stopped relying on ourselves as being nature, and we've started to rely on chemicals more, chemical factories. So, you know, we eat from chemical factories, we get trapped from chemical factories, and we do what the prison guards tell us to do, orchestrated by people who dictate this and that to us. And so, for you, your life was already led within that trap because it went there because you'd suffered already horrors when you were young, and so you kept yourself in this insular place.
Yeah. There were, when I think about it, there were lots of hurdles that and difficulties that I found during that time that we were in lockdown and stuff like that. Maybe quite, which will be different to what I saw in those around me or what I saw on the news, because it was about like illness and that, and people being poorly and hospitalised and things like that.
I think the big thing as well, which would have fed into you and many people, inciting fear into people as well, for them to be scared. Yeah.
So even though I didn't know anybody who was really ill with COVID, and I was spared that fear that was portrayed about the vaccine. Have the vaccine if you want to be a good person. Have the vaccine if you want to look after your loved ones. Have the vaccine if you want to protect your community and stuff like that.
So can you see how, as I've spoken about before, if something is so, why do we have to be manipulated like that? It's called
I felt pressured into having the vaccine because of that.
It's pressured into fear, and if you don't have it, so it's that way. You know, how do we know when we're being told stuff by the powers that be, so to speak, that rule over us? How do we know they're telling the truth? Why do we, you know, so I say it's like a form of Stockholm syndrome, where somebody does you harm, but you keep going back or hoping that they're going to turn into the handsome prince and tell you the truth. How do we know that they were actually telling us the truth? How do we know that? Because why then, if somebody's telling the truth, does manipulation come in? So one of it is called psycho-ops, where because the fear for human beings is not to be excluded from a tribe. So because we don't want to be excluded from the tribe, it's like, if we do it, you do it. If I dress as Elvis, as the meaning is in the homogeneous groups, if I dress as Elvis, everybody needs to dress it, or you're not in the group. And then that manipulation, you know, like they use it on, you know, for charities. And if you care about animals, you will give me money. Do you see what I mean? And it's like, well, I do care about animals, but I don't want to give you. Oh, no, you don't, unless you give me money. And that's the same manipulation. If you care about your family, and if you care about that, oh, well, I've got to prove to you that I care then by doing what you want me to do. But if you cared about human beings, you won't be trying to manipulate us.
And I didn't, at the time, I didn't see that manipulation. I just thought, one of my things from being little is about, I want to be a good person. I don't want to be a bad person.
Who, though?
Because I was always told I was bad. So for everybody.
Right, so you weren't bad. You weren't born bad.
I was told I was.
Yeah, so because you don't comply, you're being manipulated by verbal abuse that you're now going to be called a name. Yeah. So can you see how it works? So where is the health in that?
There isn't, because there was no, when I look back now, I never saw any of these are the things that you can do to protect yourself, like, you know, your well-being and what you eat, or how you look after yourself to boost your immune system. It was all to be a good person, and if you love people and your family and stuff, have the vaccine. So
you have chemicals.
I just have the vaccine because I comply and I want to be a good person. However, it really brought up issues relating to the sexual abuse that I experienced as a child, which was totally unexpected, because as soon as I had the vaccine, it was the way that it was done. It was just like, you know, you go in a queue, you go in, you're not treated as a human being, you're treated as an object. You have this stuff injected in you.
Did you know what it was?
No.
Did you have a packet to read from before you injected?
And I didn't know who was doing it,
Yeah.
and it was just in some kind of shed, some sort of shelter and everything. And I felt straight away I had feelings that it stirred up of something going in my body that I didn't want in there, that I didn't know what was going to happen in there. I immediately felt unwell with it, and was taken and was in bed for a number of days thinking my head was going to explode. I couldn't see very well and in a lot of pain. And all I could hear again on the media and from everybody was, well, it doesn't matter. You've got to have it again. If you love your community, if you're a good person, have it again. And it just brought all those issues up.
Yeah, what about, why is it, do you see why are you being manipulated and not to care about yourself?
Yeah. And that was a mirror of the abuse that I experienced. Yes. Doesn't matter that you don't like it. Doesn't matter that you don't want it. Somebody older in authority was, I do, so we're going to go do it again. And that's the message that I got. And it was the first time, I think, in my life that I haven't complied. And I said to myself, no, I'm not having the second, because...
Who's the authority? What does authority mean to you?
Good question. It sort of means anybody who I feel is superior to me.
How are they superior?
Being older, being I don't know, being like having qualifications, or even not qualifications, or a title, or I don't know. I just
can people with a qualification learn wrong things?
Yeah, okay. But I can say that now. But even like 5 years ago when the COVID, I was very much compliance based. Everybody knows better than I do. Don't trust your own judgment because it's always wrong.
And why is it that you're looking up to people with qualifications? And there were some people with qualifications that were doctors that were verbally abusive if you didn't have the vaccine. So there were also abusers. So, you know, and then the other one is the threat, that you're being threatened. And so then what does that mean? That you're being, you know, you're being a slave to a system, because if you don't do what it says, you're going to be threatened. And yet we're all born equal. Does that show you equality? And then even inequality or human rights, weren't they then taken away?
Yeah.
And so in a world where they orchestrate these things, but they seem quite fake, because we can use them for one thing, but we can't use them for another. Do you see what I mean? So, like, is murder a sin? It's supposed to be a sin. Yeah. And so, well, in that, how come that it's okay to murder then? It's okay to go to war and murder. Okay to murder a fly. Okay to murder and slaughter an animal. These things are okay. So it's like, where do you have a secure base to look from then? In that, do you see what I mean? So it sounds like part of your experience was that you were experiencing something out of fear, out of being told or dictated what you should and shouldn't do. The rules around that, so somebody had made rules. Part of your freedom was taken away, which you didn't mind because you didn't want much freedom anyway, because you wanted to hide from society, really, that had been cruel to you anyway when you were growing up. So everything was orchestrated around being safe within illness, in some form of created illness that you couldn't trust, because the very things that are out there don't matter in this case. The human rights didn't matter, all these things didn't matter.
And thinking like what you said about being outside the tribe, when I decided that I wouldn't have the second vaccine because of the upset, well, the physical problems it caused, but the upset and the reminder of being abused, and having my body treated like that, regardless of what it went through. Like, I told my family that I wasn't having it, and it was like, don't tell anybody, because they didn't want me to be seen as if I didn't fit the tribe.
Yes.
And
so they have a fear of
yeah,
you.
they were like, just don't tell anybody. And they put pressure on me to have it again, the second booster or whatever it was called and stuff like that. And I felt really excluded, and it took me a lot. And like I say, that's the first time I've stuck to my guns and not done something which I've been told to do and have that. But it was like when my family wanted me to comply, and I gave all lots of reasons and stuff. But then when they knew I wouldn't, it was like, don't tell anybody, don't let anybody know. Likewise, when it was clapping the NHS and stuff on a Thursday night, I think, I questioned myself, do I want to do, instead of just following on the bandwagon, I was like, do I want to do that? And I'm like, well, no, actually, I don't. I'm grateful for some people within the NHS. I've been very lucky and met some really good professionals, but I have been damaged.
But that's a big thing.
I've been lucky.
I've been very lucky to meet some really nice people. What does that tell you about your experience with the NHS? Because as well, I'm not saying that people don't intend to help others, but you have to have a look. When you see, I remember going to the gym many years ago, and I love the gym instructor to kind of go along with your mates, and not the gym instructor, doing an exercise routine, and the instructor, she was great, and it's like you had something to look forward to. I want to look forward to looking like that, and so anyway. She announced that, this is going to be the last week, and the original instructor is coming back. So I said, aren't you the original? She said, no. All right. And the original instructor came back, and she didn't look as fit as her, and so I didn't have an end result. So I thought, well, I can't, because I need somebody that's authentic. Do you see what I mean? So I need somebody to look up to, and if I don't have anyone to look up to, which I don't. If I don't have any, I have nothing to go on. Do you see what I mean? So that's what that reminds me of when you just said, I was lucky because I come across a nice person, but also being lucky when you've got somebody to look up to, that a healthy person. So when you walk in the hospital, then how many people do you see that you're in luck that's healthy and that's nice, or that's trying nice? I'm not saying people don't try to do that and try to be like that, but ultimately we can only tell people what's inside of us, so people react to what's inside of them. But does it look a pillar of health when you walk into these buildings?
My experience, no.
Yeah.
Like I say, I shouldn't feel lucky, but I feel lucky that I've met some really good professionals and supportive, knowledgeable.
I know you give them a label and say professionals. Are they just people?
People
We have made up labels.
I've been really harmed by some people working in that system, and being harmed by the system itself, the protocols, the policies and procedures. So I'm not. I've learned, or I'm learning since then. No, I'm not just going to go blindly and comply with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
It's like that system and the way that it's set up and the structure is really damaged me. And the people that have helped me have been, when I look at it, have been those people, professionals, who have been willing to go outside the box and fight the policies and protocols for what they feel is right.
So it's that when you have a look and you say, as I speak about the original Socratic oath, it said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Now it's let chemical be thy food and chemicals be thy medication. So there's a difference in there in what's being chosen to say, well, did the first one work then? You've got to wonder, haven't you? I wonder if the first one worked. That's why this oath got changed. But even in that, like I say, laws and human rights and everything else, and it's like, well, just not in this case. We're not going to use that in this case. Is that what the case is? You've got, it just makes you wonder. Is that what the case is? Why is it, as we speak about before, and we spoke about a couple of times, as if something has to be changed, then who was it changed to benefit? So it's that. So and that's what it seems that you recognised in. This hurts me. How is this benefiting me if I put it in and it's hurting like this? So, and we're all autonomous, self-governing human beings. So why are we all being governed by someone else?
But my mum was so ashamed that I wasn't clapping and that kind of thing for the NHS and stuff, and we're like, really, do not tell anybody. It was like top secret. It was like really shameful of something that I was doing, even though I explained to her why I wasn't.
So is that then in shameful out of fear, or that she's going to be
what it looks like? I think my mum's from a generation where it doesn't matter what's going on inside, just put a smile on your face and look all right. And also, what's just come in my mind is like when I was little, it's like I could take you anywhere. It's like you know how to behave. You know that
the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you know to sit there. You know to sit there quietly and not do anything and
to serve
not,
everybody else.
Yeah, not to cause a problem.
So you've been born into a prison really to serve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's about what other people think or what other people can see or the image that you portray. I know when I was going through depression for a number of years, I can remember once walking up the path to their house where we lived, and my mum was looking out at the window, and when I got there she went, well, you just put a smile on your face. I'm like, but I don't feel like smiling. She went, I don't care, just put a smile on your face, it doesn't matter what you feel like. And it was like just so to others and to her as well,
to make them feel better.
Yeah, if I had a smile on my face, my mum could pretend that I were all right. She didn't like
to see the truth.
Yes.
So is that similar to your experience of COVID then? That's triggered all that because you have to, that recognition within yourself is, or conflict that was going on. I'm not even here for me. I'm here to please other people, whether it pleased them physically, mentally, or financially. I'm here. This vessel is here just to please somebody else and to make money off.
And also it caused, I think, within my family and my very small circle that I have, it showed the pandemic and the lockdown. One, it highlighted what my addictions are and how they are attached to the eating disorders I experience and the obsessive compulsive disorder that I experience, how they're all entangled. And it also made me realise how, well, I've always known it, but it highlighted how little those around me understand it, thinking that I could just change my behaviour because a law had been brought in about lockdown or about how, because in that phase in my routines and my exercise phase, I was doing 6 hours walking every day, very rigid. I set off at 6:30 every morning, and I finished at like 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and I had to walk so far, so many steps, so distance, burn so many calories and all that kind of thing. And I was so rigid, and then having those restrictions, you're not allowed to, what is it? It was something like a mile or radius from your house and stuff. And it's like, I just suddenly can't stop that. And it's like, and then my child, who is about compliance, is like, I'm going to get arrested if they see me walking and they ask where I live. And it's like, but I don't want to talk to anybody. So why can't I just swap not talking to anybody, but just walking for like lots of miles? And that bargaining from a child of trying to, I need to keep doing these routines, but I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want to get told off.
So you were trapped in debating between one prison, which is the mind prison that you've got in your mind, to the other prison that's the external prison that's been orchestrated for us all to live in. So for you, it's hard to leave.
Yeah.
What makes you keep it?
I feel that I need it to get through the day.
Why?
The feelings of my routines and the stuff that I do being threatened is so overwhelming, with anxiety, with paranoia, with overthinking, and harming myself in other ways, that from experience, when I do try and curb or restrict one aspect of that dynamic, it causes a backlash and something else to get worse. So if I try restricting my routines and my walking and my exercise, my eating, I can't seem to balance my eating out. I'll either eat nothing for days, or I'll be binging on 20, 30,000, 40,000 calories in half an hour. And it seems to be that when, or if I'm doing really well with my food and being able to find that balance, my routines, and it just seems to be that I can't seem to manage the balance. It's like if I'm doing well in one area, the other one gets really restrictive and really unhealthy, and becomes the addiction sort of need goes up. And that's what I found during the pandemic, because I was like, I felt restricted in like what I could do exercise wise, because one, the gym was shut as well, and because of, didn't want to get arrested for being outside my boundary. But with my eating as well, I know it'll sound stupid, but I found the restrictions in the supermarket really, really unhelpful for my eating disorder, because you had to queue for hours to get in them, and then there were limits on what you could buy. And I was at that stage trying to balance atypical anorexia with binge eating. I'd learned that I need to go in a supermarket and get the food that I'm going to eat at that meal there and then. Well, when there were a queue for 2 hours to get in it, to get something to eat there and then to join back the queue for the next meal. And because I can't have stock up at home, because if I have a stock of food up at home, it just gets eaten when the switch goes. So I found it really tricky to manage those changes in maybe what I think somebody else found okay to deal with.
I guess as well, it's recognizing within that from, you spoke about the restrictions and in your COVID experience, in what that did to you as well, is similar to when you, the food that you were eating. So, because, the question why is that, why do you still have this? Because you've been helped, and it's like, why is it still persistent? And one of the things that shows is that many people have eating disorders. In fact, as Dr. Sebi says, if you don't love yourself, you don't love anybody else. Meaning, if you eat addictive chemicals, you're more likely to feed your children addictive chemicals. And then when you feed your children addictive chemicals, then, so feeding them many things, we're putting many things into our body. And you questioned the COVID thing, but it's like, we're putting many things into our body.
But I never questioned the food that I ate.
The chemicals that you're eating in food. You never question the toxic chemicals that you're eating in food, the toxic chemicals that are in juices that people drink as well. And so because the toxic, then we eat a mixture of them. So if you have a bit of this, you have a bit of this, and you have a bit of this, then you're just eating a toxic of chemicals. So the food impacts your mood, it impacts everything. And so that's what I mean. We're getting taken so far away from our humanness of let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And it's like, well, maybe that might have worked. Do you see what I mean? And that's why it was changed, because if we pick food from the ground or from a tree, then nobody can make money. So ultimately things are orchestrated. You can clearly see that they're orchestrated in a certain way. These are things running your family. It's like, no, your family eats the same diet. And so, but we all need to be doing the same thing, because society is telling us to all do the same thing. So we all just gather to these places to get, because almost like the Stockholm syndrome of trusting the people that are harming you, constantly trusting the people that are harming you. And don't you keep going back to the hospital despite, or wherever the doctors or whatever, despite, despite you knowing that you might be lucky if you meet someone nice, as you say. Well, if you're going to be lucky if you meet someone nice, but it's like anywhere else, you'd say, I'm not going back there again.
Yeah.
But yet we do it because I think you've mentioned in the previous video that we have the longest relationship with health departments.
Yeah, the NHS is the
is
relationship the longest we have.
the,
It's there
the
when
long,
you're born, it's there when
and
you
then we die.
die.
But the thing is, that is, even that itself, even saying that itself is worrying, don't you think? That's got something to be said about society, that we're supposed to be these intelligent beings, and yet we're getting sicker, and just by that relationship itself is saying there's a big problem that we're not seeing, that we're ignoring. So when you speak about your eating disorder and things like that, it's because many people have eating disorders because many people are eating chemicals. And it's like, oh, they're just a few E numbers. It's like, no, they're not. But we don't bother looking because we're told somebody with a label has already done the looking for us.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah.
So it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? There are many questions behind the things that we do that we're just constantly trusting. You know, it's like being, I guess I see it as, you know, if somebody tried to call me a fraud, you know, I mean, if you've got a person that's committing fraud, would you keep going back to and believing them? They won't do it this time. They won't do it, but we do, don't we?
Yeah, if you went to a restaurant where you were treated really badly, or stayed in a hotel, you'd be like, I'm not going there again, and put a review on and complain or whatever. But yeah, to the I think it's only now that I question it. But up until like the COVID, yeah, because I was brought up in that environment, go to the doctor, get a pill, you'll be all right.
Well,
you need a pill.
That's the first thing people say when they
like
say,
my mum says, a therapist is rubbish because they don't prescribe you anything. So
exactly.
And every time, like when I first started, because she didn't get it, like, well, they're not giving you anything. They're useless.
Is your mum well yet?
No.
So it's that. It's looking at that, and because wellness is what you know. It's for us to decide which road am I going to go down. But sometimes when you've already been elected to go down a certain road, such as eating certain foods, and you've become ill, then it can be, you know, quite a long journey to get out of that because these foods are addictive. So you might as well, you know, it's just like saying to, you know, somebody that takes drugs, which people do, so we take drugs no matter whether they're prescribed or anything. But what made me curious, it's just a curious thing, that a realization is, as I've said before, the third biggest killer is prescription drugs. The second, I think it's cancer, and the first is heart attacks. And I can't see among that any of, you know, with crime and things like that, of on that list is to do with what we're taking in food. It's not to do with murder. It's not to do with, although, you know, if you did that through war, I'm sure you'd get many people, but it's not to do with drug dealers either.
No.
It's prescription drugs, but there's no drug dealer in there. So when you're looking and you're saying, I'm looking at the people that I trust, and I keep having the Stockholm syndrome and trusting again because I'm told to trust, because I'm told that this is a trusting label.
And I think one thing that's come into my mind that I've not thought of before, but when you were speaking about that, about trust and that eating disorders, I was first diagnosed when I was 20 with an eating disorder. But if I look back at the relationship I had with food, we all have a relationship with food, and it was not, I didn't need any medical intervention. It wasn't like that, but it was very, very toxic. It was based on stories that I'd picked up from those around me, thinking about my mum's eating habits and my grandma's eating habits. It's like that generational belief and stories that are passed on and just way of living, and that toxicity that you just accept. This is what we do.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we do. Let's be questioned that, is this, why are we blamed all the time? It's not that's the problem. It's us being blamed all the time of, oh, well, it's genetic. It's like, is it? Isn't it just like Sunday lunch? Is Sunday lunch not genetic then? Isn't that just something that we do? So it's that you've got to question, and yeah, is it that, or is it something? How do I know that's true? How do I know that the people that are looking inside of my body are telling me the truth? And so it's just using, I guess, your own autonomy to say, it's, if I'm not governing myself, and so far I'm ill, then how can I trust the people that I'm trusting? And I guess it's just asking that, and it sounds like that's what you did over COVID, in saying, if that, what I've been injected in me makes me feel like this enough to not want to have that injection, then maybe I should not have the other one, like you did, because if people can't give up a food, and majority of people have many addictions now, so if you can't give food up, a certain food up, because you want it, then that has to be addictive. If you're saying that's really hard for me to stop, like alcohol or drugs, and children can't, I want sweets, I want sugar, I want this, I want pizza, I want all of these things, then isn't that an addiction?
Yeah. And it's just, the reason why I'm laughing and smiling is because literally before coming in here, I was waiting outside, and these two women went past, and they were talking about food, and I didn't obviously grasp the whole of the conversation, but it was basically, one sort of said, I'd never get an eating disorder because I like food too much. And I just had to laugh at myself, because it just highlighted